Now let's talk about logical operators. Now we've seen comparison operators, which compares two values and returns true or false depending on the condition. However, you can mix and match these using logical operators. So here's how they look. First of all, we have the logical AND, which is written as two AND symbols. So the logical operators, such as the logical AND, can be used to bind two comparison operators together, and it will only return true if all conditions return true. So in this case, 1 is less than 3 and so in this case 1 is less than 3 and 2 is strictly equal to 2 returns true, because both of these conditions are true. So in order for logical AND to return true, all of the conditions defined must be true. Even if one of them returns false, the whole condition will return false. And you also have the logical OR operator, which is written as double pipe symbols. And the logical OR operator returns true if at least one condition returns true. So in this case, 3 is less than 2 or 6 is not equal to 6 ultimately returns false. Why? Because neither of them are true. 3 is less than 2 is false and 6 is not equal to 6 is false as well. That's why ultimately the full calculation results false. But if among several conditions only one of them returned true, then the whole value would return true. And we also have the logical NOT, which means condition must be false. So in order for the logical NOT condition to be true, the condition actually must be false. So for example, not 5 is strictly equal to 6 returns true, because 5 is strictly equal to 6 returns false, and logical not false means true. So logical not actually inverses the result of the condition. If it's false, it returns true. If it's true, it returns false. Let's take a deeper look at each one of them. We'll start with logical AND. So the logical AND only returns true if all the conditions defined return true. Even if one of them returns false, the whole condition becomes false. So for example, 4 is less than 5 and 3 is strictly equal to 3 returns true, because both of these conditions are true. And you can also chain as many conditions as you want. Here we have 3 conditions side by side. So 5 is greater than 3 and 2 is strictly equal to 2 and 8 is less than or equal to 8 returns true, because fortunately all these conditions return true. Even if one of them returned false, the whole condition would have been false. So here, for example, we have 6 is less than 5 and 3 is not equal to 4. Now unfortunately here, although the second condition is true, 3 is not equal to 4, it returns true, but the first condition is false. And because in order for the logical AND operator to return true, all conditions must be true, this returns false, because one of them has returned false. All of them must be true in order for the whole condition to be returned true. And similarly, if you have the boolean false in a logical AND condition, it'll always and automatically return false. Because false means the condition returned false, and even if the second condition returns true, which is in this case, it doesn't matter, it returns false. Also note that when it comes to logical AND, just like normal JavaScript, is executed from left to right. So the first condition is executed, then the second one, then the third one, and so on. And during this execution, if one of these return false, then the condition automatically defaults to false, because if one of them returned false, then it doesn't matter what the other values return. If one of them is false, then the whole condition will be false. That's why it's a shortcut that JavaScript uses to script through all the other conditions, and if a false condition is incurred, it automatically stops execution and returns false. Now we have the logical OR. The logical OR operator returns true if at least one of the conditions return true. So for example, 5 is greater than 3 or 6 is less than 6 returns true, because although the second condition is not true, the first one is. And in order for a logical OR condition to return true, only one true condition is required. And just like logical AND, you can chain operations side by side as many as you want. So 3 is greater than 3, or 4 is strictly equal to 4, or 8 is not equal to 7 returns true. Here, the first condition is false. However, the second condition and the third condition is true. That's why it returns true. And just like with logical AND, when this code is executed from left to right, the first condition returns false, and then the second condition returns true, and the execution is immediately stopped. because we've incurred a true value, which means the whole condition is true, which means 8 is not equal to 7 doesn't even need to be executed. JavaScript shortcuts and defaults to true for this condition. Similarly, if you have true or 3 is strictly equal to 4, it returns true. Because the first condition returns true, so the second condition is not even executed, it doesn't even matter. However, if none of the conditions return true, then ultimately the result is false. So for example, 8 is greater than 10 is false, or 4 is less than or equal to 2, which is also false. So if both of them are false, meaning all the conditions are false, it returns false. Finally, we have the logical NOT. The logical NOT actually inverses the result of the calculation. So if the condition is true, it returns false. If it's false, it returns true. So for a logical NOT to be true, the condition must actually return false. So for example, logical NOT 5 is greater than 7 is true, because actually 5 is greater than 7 is false, and logical NOT inverses that false into true. Similarly, logical NOT 4 is greater than 2 returns false, because 4 is greater than 2 is true, and logical NOT true means false. And of course, logical NOT false is true, because remember, logical NOT inverses the Boolean value. So logical NOT false actually inverses false to true. And similarly, logical NOT true is false. Logical NOT 5 is false as well, because 5, although it's not a condition, 5 is a number. And remember, in JavaScript, anything that is not 0, -0, null, undefined, nan, or an empty string is truthy, which means it has a value true. So the 5, the number, actually is true. So logical NOT 5 means false. Similarly, not null is true, because null is regarded as false. So not null is true. And not undefined is true as well. Now here's the funny thing. If you have two logical NOT operators side by side, they actually cancel out one another. So logical NOT 5 is greater than 9 ultimately returns false, because 5 is greater than 9 returns false, logical NOT false returns true, and logical NOT true returns false, which means they cancel each other out, and logical NOT 5 is greater than 9 is actually the same as 5 is greater than 9, which ultimately returns false.